This week, we get ourselves in a bit of a tiz, trying to answer this.
Hello, my name is John and I live in Melbourne, Australia. My question is, are electrons orbiting atoms? I've always wondered how come electrons seem to perpetually spin around a nucleus. What forces are involved and how come friction doesn't play a part in stopping their movement? Thanks, guys.
Over to Dr. Andrew Ponson, cosmologist at University College London.
By around 1910 or so, it was realised that atoms are composed of a heavy nucleus which has a positive charge and then some sort of cloud of negatively charged electrons. Now, the problem with that picture is that opposite charges attract. So all those electrons are constantly being pulled in towards the nucleus in the same way that, for instance, an apple is pulled towards the Earth by gravity. Obviously, though, atoms don't fall in on themselves and implode, so something is stopping the electrons from falling in. And Ernst Rutherford worked out that it must be that the electrons are doing something like flying in orbit around the nucleus of the atom. When you actually do some calculations, this idea that the electrons are flying around does actually hit a snag, because when electrons zoom so fast, it turns out that they would then emit a lot of light, and that would make them lose their energy, and so they would spiral inwards after all. This was some of the first evidence that something was seriously wrong with physics at the beginning of the 20th century. A couple of years later, Niels Bohr came out and said that something must just simply be stopping this spiralling in of the electrons. They must somehow just be forced to stay in orbit, and we now understand that Bohr's idea is actually correct and follows as a consequence of the weird rules of quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, the physical motion of an electron is replaced by a much more abstract idea known as a wave function. So instead of moving around, the electron is effectively at all times smeared everywhere throughout a shell that's around the nucleus. Nonetheless, the wave function carries, for instance, angular momentum, so that makes it very, very much like the electron is orbiting around the nucleus. But this wave-like structure from quantum mechanics prevents the catastrophic spiralling in effect.
Due to the oddities of quantum mechanics, electrons have something called wave function, which means they can be smeared everywhere around the nucleus. And due to the weirdness of quantum mechanics, electrons can only exist in certain energy states, and none of these involve a crash into the nucleus. So they don't. Sticking with things that have a buzz, Lee wrote in with this.
How and why are bugs attracted to bright light?
And if you would like to get in touch with us in the meantime, it's chris@thenakedscientist.com. Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.